Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted GRUB from the Moonstone starter set. I started painting him before I did the recording, so we're going to go back a few stages and I'll show you on some other models how I prepared him. So first up, he's primed with a nice dark grey, and then I used some two thin coats, White Star, and this will be dry brushed on with a very vegan makeup brush, super soft bristles, perfect for this kind of thing. So I take a little bit of the paint out of the bottle, add it onto a little bit of plastic here, and then I'll load up the bristles, really work it in there, get loads of paint in, but then try and get as much as I can off of the bristles and onto a piece of card. And then I'll start dry brushing the model with downward strokes. I'll use Friar Flavius as the example here, and then we'll get back to GRUB in a second. But I go over this, doing about 2 or 3 coats until I'm really happy, and you can see the effect. It's quite bright, certainly from the top, but as you look underneath, you're going to catch that shadow coming through. So I've just gone back over GRUB with a bit more of the white paint just to dull that green down that I previously put on. So imagine this is at the stage of Friar Flavius now. And then the first paint we'll take is some contrast Plague Bearer Flesh. I'm going to give this a really good shake, and then you have to do that with all the contrast paints. And then I'm just going to work this on all the areas of skin here, putting a fair amount, but I'm not flooding the model, I'm not going crazy, just enough to get into the recesses. And then I just push and pull that paint around until I'm happy. And then this is going to give us a nice base colour. And you could leave it just with this contrast paint, but I'm going to do a lot of layers on this skin, something that I haven't done in the past all that much. Next up is some contrast Frostheart and contrast Griff Charger Grey. And I'm going to mix these together. I want a nice blue, but I don't want it too bright. So I think I'm going to use some of this Griff Charger Grey, about 3 parts of that, to then, 2 parts of the Frostheart, mix that together, and then that's going to give a really nice grey-blue, but it's going to be quite bright, but not as bright as the Frostheart would be on its own. And I'm going to use this for his hat, and I'm going to try and avoid all the little eyes that are dotted around in there. If you're doing this and you make a little mistake, don't worry, you can always go back with a little bit of white paint and touch up any mistakes. But this is really good. Some sections like this with all the different textures work really well with contrast paints. Next I took some shade Basecoating green, and I'm going to go over all the areas I painted with that Plague Bearer Flesh. Now this is a really good recipe if you're painting orcs. This does some great orc skin, and I got this from the painting coach, and I always give him a shout out. He does some awesome painting on his channel, so definitely worth checking him out. But here you can see I'm working that in, getting into those recesses again, but I'm leaving the arms clear. I'm just going over the body here, and that's going to give it a little bit of a different colour later on. Then I took some Layer Kislev Flesh, and when that shade was completely dry, I just started sketching in some areas. I've watered the paint down, a good 1 part paint to 1 part water, and I'm just going over the most raised areas of both the arms and all the areas where I did that Basecoating green. And so this is going to take it away from being a bright green and make it almost like a putrid flesh colour. That's the sort of thing I'm going for. I want it to look like a proper bug. So here we go, really working it in there. And then that's going to go all around the ears as well. So just really trying to focus on the most raised areas where you've got the big recesses. I'll try and avoid that to keep that nice dark shade. GRUB's been a really fun model to paint, and he's really good fun to play as well. He does some awesome things. I love how he can teleport across the battlefield, and it's a really cool little character. He can be quite tough as well. Right, that's dry, so let's take some Layer Flayed One Flesh, and now I'm going to do some dry brushing. So I've got this little Army Painter small dry brush now, and I'm working that paint into the bristles, again getting as much as I can off that card, and then I'm going to go over all the areas that I've painted previously and just try and catch the very most raised areas. This will be like a highlight that will just kind of brighten it up a little bit, and we're still coming away from that green now, but you can really see it coming through. And we're going to do a few more layers to this, so we're not done yet, and then all these little steps are going to build up. There's something I was really pleased with. I was really happy with how this turned out. It was a bit of an experiment, to be fair, and I was really pleased with the result. Now I'll take some dry Nurgling green. I'll use that same brush and do the same thing. But I've hardly got any paint on the brush here. I'm being really careful just to catch it all over those raised areas again. And you may think I'm just covering up what I've done, but you'll see at the end, it really does come through, especially with this stage, which is the shade Reichland Flesh. And this is going to help really tie it all together now. So I'm going over the main part of the body. I'm also going to do all the arms and legs, work my way around the back too. But I'm not going to do that little bit, I don't know what it would be called on a bug, but that kind of scarf bit. I'm going to leave that alone. But I am going to work on the face and the ears and really, again, avoiding those eyes as best I can. Next up, it's time to take some contrast Gore Grunter fur, and this is going to be a really nice reddy brown colour that I like to use for wood on some things. So I'm going to put some of this on this bug spray can that he's got going on there and give that a nice coat all over. That's nice for the wood, but when I do handles for weapons like his dagger, I like to use Contrast Volupus Pink. It just adds another colour to the mix, and I think it works really nice to give a kind of coloured or dyed leather effect. So I'm going to paint the handle of his little dagger in there. I'm being very careful now to avoid all the fingers and the areas that I've previously painted. Then we'll move on and we'll go for a nice bright contrast Iyanden yellow next. I use this for the scarf that wraps round, and that's just going to break up that fleshy greeny colour and just add a bit more yellow, almost like a limey green colour to it. And I think that's going to work really nicely. Break it up a little bit and then just go around moving that model, making it nice and easy. And then I try and have lots of control on my brush, so I always make sure I move the model and not myself. And then I'll paint that little beak that he's got in as well. And now you can see as it's drying, you're really seeing all those colours we did earlier. Next up, Contrast Magos Purple. Now this is quite a light purple, and I'm going to put this on the back here for the little wings and that natural bug armour that he's got on the back. And this is going to be really nice. That effect of dry brushing is really going to come through. And I'm being quite generous here with the paint. It's quite a large area to cover. I want it to go in the recesses, and now you really start to get all the texture coming through with those highlights and shades. Now it's time to go back to 2 thin coats white star paint, my favourite white paint, and I'm going to paint in and tidy up these eyes just to brighten them up a little bit before we add any yellow to them. So just being careful. I want to keep any of the paint that's worked its way into the recess, so you almost get a little circle framing each eyeball. So just taking my time. Then it's time to take some contrast Iyanden yellow, and when that white is completely dry, I'll put a nice coat of that over each eye, and that'll give us the yellow bug effect. I really like this contrast of bright yellow against the flesh putrid coloured green that we've got going on, and I think that works really nice with the blue as well. So those 3 colours all together are really cool. And then a little bit of purple on the back, a little bit of pink on the handle, so you've got lots of interesting colours going on around the model. Then I took some contrast Black Templar, and I'm going to use that just to carefully paint in the little eyes. And I guess I'm kind of doing it like Kermit's eyes. I'm really using the box art as my guide, and the pictures on the Moonstone website. They're really helpful. And then I'm just trying to look at the model, work my way around, and make sure that the eyes aren't all going in the same direction, just so it adds a little bit of interest. And it makes it look like he's looking all over the place, so he's a bit creepy. Then I took some base lead belcher, and now I'll use this just to block in all the areas that are going to be metal. So we've got the dagger there, just 1 coat. I don't water this down. I don't use the wet palette so much for my metal paints, but I'm just going to go straight from the pot and straight on there. You might want to use your wet palette, but I don't. Then onto the base Runelord brass, and this will be dry brushed on carefully now onto the metal just to break up that solid colour. We're going to put a wash and a highlight on it, but I just want to give it a bit more interest than just lead belcher. And I started doing this a lot lately on different metallics. When that's dry, I took some shade Nuln oil, and then that's going to be in there on all those metal parts. That's going to bring all the texture through, give us all the recess shading, and that's going to look really nice. And then we'll do a little highlight once that's completely dry with some layer Stormhost Silver. And the same thing, take our dry brush, work it in to the bristles, then we'll use some card to get most of the paint off, and then just go around trying to catch the edges where the light is going to hit all the metal work. So being very careful, taking my time, just catching the areas I want the most highlight to go on. And that's it. That's all the painting done for GRUB. And the next step would be to let this dry and then move on to the base. And if you'd like to see how I use this for Vallejo thick mud and some other little things to do the base, then check out my video for Beaky Bobby. I'll link to it at the end of this one. But the final stage, once the basing is done, is to take some Abaddon black and then paint around the rim, just like I've done here with Doug the Pug. You want to do a nice coat on this, let it dry thoroughly, add 1 further coat, and then you could varnish it if you wanted to. And there we go, there's GRUB from the Moonstone starter set, painted up with a really putrid flesh colour, and I was really happy with the result. And I used similar techniques to paint all the models from the Moonstone starter set, and you can see lots of videos on the channel if you want to check those out. There's Doug the Flatulent. What a great model to paint that was. Really enjoyed doing that one. Then we've got Beaky Bobby, one of my favourites, and this is the model that really attracted me to the game, and he's really got me into it. But since painting these goblins, who I thought were going to be my favourite, including Vicious Sid here, I've moved on to the humans, and I've really enjoyed playing them. Friar Flavius isn't one of my favourites, but I do like playing Eric the Squire from time to time, and Baron von Fancy Hat. But those three I would probably have in my reserves, and most of the time I'll be taking Flintlock in for sure. He's a great character, does some really cool stuff. I love snipers, so brilliant that there's one included. But as starter sets go, these are some fantastic miniatures. You get all four of the goblins, all four of these heroes, really nicely balanced and ready to go. And then you can start adding other characters to your troop. Like this guy, Drunk Fritz. The contrast blue and red really worked nicely here with the Zenithor highlighting, and then with the layering on some of the other areas. I was really pleased with this model, especially the face. I was happy with that. Come out really nice and crisp. Then I tried something completely different with Agatha the Barmaid, and these models, I think they're so well done. The sculpts are so detailed and so nice to paint. They really inspire me to get on and try and push myself, and I'm trying to improve my painting all the time now. This one is one of my most recent ones, Dim and Dimmer, the two-headed giant. He actually eats characters, which is fantastic. So I used similar techniques I used on GRUB to get all the skin tones and the layering up of the different sections. So this is one of my favourite models to paint. And then some of the new Weirdwood models, they were really fun. Here's Gump, so much character, and I used the same basing techniques that you'll see in that Beaky Bobby video, but I added some of the Gamer Grass ferns in there, which are really nice. They brought this model to life, I think, and added a little bit of interest to the base. And here you can see the other spirit tree folk from the Weirdwood, really fun. Great to paint, full of character, interesting things they can do on the tabletop as well. I played them for the first time properly in a few games on the weekend to try them out and had a great time. But there's some videos if you want to get those and paint them as well. I've also done a video on how I painted Dim and Dimmer and an unboxing video. And if you haven't seen Moonstone before, maybe this is the first time watching, go and check out. There's other videos I've done about all the rules, what's in the book. There's that Beaky Bobby painting video with the basing at the end of it, and then how to play Moonstone. I've done a full how to play video as well. And then check out the new Shades faction, an awesome collection of new models on the way. A big thanks to all my sponsors and supporters for helping me keep going with these daily videos, and a massive thank you to you for clicking on their links and having a look at what they do. It really helps them, really helps me here on the channel, and you save up to 20% on your hobby products too. I've been painting some other models recently. You might want to check out this Payday Skirmish game model I painted from Anvil Industry. Really fun. And I'm also going to be painting some proper dwarves real soon from the new Torch and Shield game, so look out for that. I'm also doing loads for Warlord Games at the moment with Bolt Action, Hail Caesar and Victory at Sea. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. And what are you working on at the moment? What's your favourite model from Moonstone? What are you painting? Let me know what you're up to in the hobby. But for now, thank you so much for watching. If you did like the video, it'd be great if you hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters for helping me to keep going with these regular videos. I couldn't do this without you, and I appreciate your support so much. If you'd like to join the Patreon community, support the channel, get some great perks at the same time, there's a link down below in the description. It'll be awesome to see you there.